Hi guys, welcome back to Tax Q&A. In today's video, I'll be answering all about the Presumptive Taxation Scheme. Let's get started. See, if we break down the term, presumptive comes from presume, which basically means to assume, and taxation is, well, tax. So put together, it means a system where the government assumes your income and taxes you based on that assumption. Now, where does this come from? Back in 1994, the government wanted to widen the taxpayer base and also encourage more people to set up businesses. But there was a problem. Running a business wasn't just about doing sales and making profits. You also had to maintain proper books of accounts like cash books, journals, ledgers, and in many cases, even get them audited. So instead of focusing on growing your business, you would be spending all your time figuring out paperwork, hiring accountants, and dealing with audits. To help such small business owners, the government introduced the Presumptive Taxation Scheme. Instead of making people go through that hassle, they said we'll just assume a fixed percentage of your total earnings as profit and tax you on that. So we already talked about how this scheme was originally meant for small businesses, but over time it was also extended to professionals. Businesses with an annual turnover of under 2 crore can opt for the Presumptive Taxation Scheme under Section 44AD. And in case 95% of the business transactions are digital, this limit extends to 3 crores. For professionals like doctors, lawyers, architects and consultants, if the total receipts for the year are below 50 lakh, they can opt for the Presumptive Taxation Scheme under Section 44ADA. And just like with businesses, if 95% or more of your transactions are digital, this limit goes up to 75 lakh. Alright, see, in any business, the way you usually calculate profit is simple. Total revenue minus expenses gives your profit and then tax is calculated on that profit. But under the Presumptive Taxation Scheme, the profit isn't calculated based on actual expense. Instead, it is assumed to be a fixed percentage of your revenue. For businesses, the profit is 6% of the total turnover if the transactions are digital. But if there are cash transactions, the assumed profit is 8%. So let's say a business has a turnover of 1 crore. The profit would be 6 lakhs. For professionals, the presumed profit is flat 50% of their total receipts. Remember that these percentages are for calculating profit and not the tax liability. As per regular slab rates, under the presumptive scheme, your tax rate isn't different from regular rates. The scheme simplifies how you calculate your taxable income, but once that is done, you pay taxes according to the income tax slabs only. You can also choose between the new and old regime depending on whichever is more beneficial. Now, this scheme was originally introduced to reduce compliance and make tax filing easier. But over time, people have also started using it as a way to save taxes. For example, let's say a business owner has 1 crore turnover. If they opt for presumptive scheme, they can declare just 6% as profit, which is 6 lakh. And under the new regime, they might end up paying zero tax. Similarly, professionals and freelancers who report 50% of their income as profit often end up paying less tax compared to what they would under the regular taxation. Say you have gross receipts of 24 lakh from your profession. Under the presumptive scheme, you declare 50% of the receipts as profit, which comes to just 12 lakh. Now from FY 25-26, income up to 12 lakh is eligible for a full rebate and hence you would pay no tax on these profits. But here's something important. If your actual profit is significantly higher, it is always advisable to report the correct numbers. Because if there's ever a scrutiny, you'll have to justify your declared income with supporting evidence. See, under the presumptive scheme, the profit is already assumed as a percentage of your turnover or receipts. This means the government is saying that we have factored in all your expenses, so no need to claim them separately. So you can't claim additional business expenses like rent, salaries, travel or marketing cost. Whatever percentage is prescribed, that is your taxable income and tax is calculated on that. But what if your actual expenses are higher? In that case, you can choose to opt out of the scheme, maintain books of accounts and report your business normally. This will allow you to declare profits lower than the prescribed rate or even report losses. Yes, GST registration is mandatory if your turnover exceeds certain threshold, regardless of whether you opt for the Presumptive Taxation Scheme or not. If you're offering services, GST registration becomes mandatory once your total turnover in a financial year crosses 20 lakh. On the other hand, if you're selling goods, the threshold is 40 lakhs. Yes, you have to, but you do have an advantage. So normally businesses and professionals have to pay advance tax in 4 installments throughout the year. But if you opt for the presumptive scheme, you can pay the entire tax liability in a single advance tax installment, and the due date to pay is 15th March of the respective financial year. Well, yes you can, but there will be some additional compliances. For businesses, if you opt for the presumptive scheme, you must stick with it for at least 5 years. And if you opt out before completing 5 years, you'll have to, number 1, get a tax audit done for the next 5 years. And number 2, you can't opt back to the scheme for that time period. However, for professionals, this rule does not apply and they can opt out of the scheme anytime. And with that, it's a wrap. If Google search is too much work for you, Quora is full of opinions, then you should check out Tax Q&A, where you can toss questions and our tax experts give quality answers. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe so you do not miss out on what's coming next. Catch you in the next one. वो तेरी गाना नहीं होती भाई, तो माइक है ऊपर से कचरी आवाज. क्यों नहीं भर पा रहे एडवांस टैक्स? अरे यार, ये बिहाइंड द कैमरा के लोग बदल सकते हैं क्या? यश तू क्यों हंस रहा है? मत हंसना. काश तू काला होता, दिखता ही नहीं.